Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Dating Coach panel. Today, we're going to do things a little differently. So, we're going to talk about fatherhood and the ultimate purpose of game, family. Every panelist here is a father. It's time to get some fatherly advice about dating and life in general. I think a lot of guys in this community don't even realize that being a father makes you more qualified as a dating coach. I've seen some coaches keep their family lives super private, or other coaches avoid getting into relationships in the first place out of fear that it will somehow disqualify them from being a dating coach or a pickup coach. Drop a super chat to ask a question, $5 USD or more, increasing as we go on. Guys, where are you joining us from? Justin, where are you joining from?
I'm hailing from Brooklyn, New York.
Alrighty. Sam, where are you joining from?
I'm calling you from Bath in the west of England at the moment.
You're
Yeah, so
you're taking a
Rio
bath
to
right
Bath.
now.
No, I'm in the city of
You're in
Bath,
your shorts.
yeah, you can't see below the waist, and that's a good thing, Ice.
Man, I
Um,
think I was there a year ago or 2 years
yeah.
ago, maybe, just
Oh,
for
really?
like
It's
a
beautiful,
day.
man.
They
Beautiful
got
city.
Roman baths there. That was pretty crazy. And
Yeah.
Steve, where are you calling in from?
Texas.
Perfect. Alrighty, let's jump straight fuck in. I have a concept called the three stages of game. Stage one is dating women. Stage two is relationships, keeping a woman. Stage three is family, raising a family. The game doesn't end when you get into a relationship, even if it's a monogamous one. Have you guys had any similar thoughts about this or something somewhat different?
Well,
Yeah.
I guess I'll go
Go
ahead.
on.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Sam. Take it off.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, my perspective on this is that it's very easy to think. I mean, particularly as men, we like to think that there's an end game, right? Like that every game we play comes to an end. And so particularly guys who are relatively new to cold approach and pickup in general, they think that, okay, I'm going to be doing this until I meet that woman, and then it's done. I can hang my hat and I can move on into the world of relationships. But I mean, just like everything in life, the ending is never really the end. It's the start of something new. It's the start of another journey. And in this case, it's very much the same journey in my experience. It's like a lot of the things that you learn with cold approach is like showing the value that you have or showing the qualities that you have. And in a relationship, it's almost a development of that, except there's fewer places to hide. So you can't hide behind anything performative because the truth is going to be exposed one way or another when you spend such a long period of time with one person. So it doesn't end. It is like a new stage, but actually I mean, I would say it's more advanced because many of the same things that you learn through cold approach, you're completely unable to learn and apply those to a relationship unless you're in a relationship. There's specific things and sort of, I suppose, ego masks, as I would call them, that are very, very easy to overlook until you are forced into a position where you have to address some of the deeper, I suppose, issues or obstacles that you have as a man. So that's the sort of macro overview that I would give on it. Justin, sorry to
Mm.
interrupt.
No, it's all right. I like for me, like I don't look at it as being more advanced. A teacher of mine told me a long time ago when I was a young man. He said, wherever you go, there you are. So I guess like within reference of ICE's stages, I'm the same no matter what context I'm put in. And it's just me doing this, it's me being me doing this, and it's me being me doing this. So either way, it's just me creating my world, whether I'm seeing a woman for just a few hours or extended periods of time. It's the same shit. And understanding like what I want to do and why. And certainly when you say you bring in children into this sort of thing, that why can shift, but it's really just always an extension of myself.
Yeah, when it comes to fatherhood game, it's again, it's to me, it's not just about being the child, it's about legacy. It's about carrying on the baton when you are no longer around. It's about choosing to lead, shape, define what you mean on your terms and not trying to not trying, just pushing an agenda to your children to go on, and when you're gone, you live on, because we're all a part of our ancestry. So we just want, I'm sure y'all just want somebody to live on in our death, to pass on our bloodline and push our legacy on.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Next question. What skills from game have actually made you a better father?
I mean, I would just shoot immediately and just say leadership. I think for me, and I agree with Justin's previous point that I think everyone aspires to just be exactly as they wish to be, exactly as they are, in in their purest form at all times. Certainly, that's something that I think people can aspire to, but it's not always easy to just be exactly as you wish to be in every moment. I think for a lot of guys, that's an aspiration as opposed to a reality. But in terms of, sorry, what was the question, Ice? I just wanted to address that point, sort of come back to that. What was your question?
It was what skills from game have
Yeah,
made you a better father?
leadership for sure. I think I was, before I got into cold approach specifically, I was definitely a people pleaser and definitely somebody who blended into the background. And a big part of my journey was, I suppose, showing up and not trying to remain in the corner and be invisible. And that was a hard skill that I had to practice and apply through pain. And I think as a father, if you have tendencies not to be, you're not intuitively the person that would be out in front in center stage. Leadership is something that if you develop in yourself as a man, it is integral to being a good father, because there are times where you don't, it's difficult to talk to your kids, right? Where if they do something wrong, or if they need to be told something, that can be difficult unless you've have a certain degree of conviction in your own ability to dictate what happens, and to be a leader. So I would say for sure the same skills you develop in leadership with cold approach, with dating, with women, they are certainly transferable through to being a father.
Yeah. I think, well, for me, the question itself is somewhat malformed in the way that I look at things, because I don't see this as a skill. It's like something to acquire that I can like put on and take off. Like it becomes me, right? It's all just about me. So the it's hard to say like, oh, this one thing is transferable, But if I could really, you know, answer your question and humor you, I would say that honesty is probably the most important thing, because in order to be a great man, the first thing that you really have to do is learn how to be honest with yourself. And that, I think, extends into leadership. It extends into influence, it extends into teaching, and teaching children how to be honest with themselves is, I think, a lifelong skill. Like it changes how they relate to themselves, and it starts that conversation, which, as we know, like guys, growing up, they get all fucked up with that communication with themselves, and it starts when they're small. So if you teach them when they're small how to communicate with themselves and start that relationship in a good and honest way, then they go through their growth periods not playing themselves quite as much, and then they're not going to do some like fuck shit with yourself. Like they're going to be more forthright with their mistakes. They're going to be more forthright with how they approach you and the life that they're developing.
Well, Ice, what was the question again? Because I'm trying to see how you word it. What was the question?
What skills from game or mindsets, have actually made you a better father?
Okay, maybe. Oh, well, for me, it's all about my name. So it's at the end of the day, it's my name, and to be able to show my kids that your name is everything, and your name creates your identity, your image, your confidence, your legacy, your concept, and your construct of who you are. So always, and like these two gentlemen were saying, this, everything they were saying, and that leadership as well. I don't even need to talk about it because the first guy talked about it the best. So it's your name. That's all I can add to it.
Nice. And now we're going to do the reverse. What skills from fatherhood have made your game stronger?
That's a really good question. I think the main thing that comes up there is that I don't know about you guys, but when I became a father, I always prepare myself for the worst, right? So when I found out I was having a child, my first thought was, God, it's going to be a girl. I'm going to have to deal with that. I was worried about having a daughter, right? I was like preparing in my mind for having a daughter. But the thing that I was really prepared for is that the child wouldn't love me. And I think that it's a very odd feeling, um, you know, when you realize that your child loves you unconditionally and you don't quite know why, because you haven't proven yourself to your kid as a man yet, right? And I think as men, maybe this is a little bit deep, but as men, we don't expect to be given anything on a platter, right? We have to earn everything we have in life. We have to fight for it. It's a competitive life that we're born into in every way. And so when you have a kid, my first thought was like, okay, I'm going to love this kid unconditionally, but I do not expect the same in return. And so when I look at this kid and this kid's smiling back at me, right? And as he grows up, everything I do, he's watching me and he loves you and you just know it and you feel it, right? In such a deep way that you haven't received from anyone except maybe a mother. That moment is kind of shocking when you've had to work for everything and then you receive this unconditional love that you kind of haven't recognized for since you were an infant. So I think what that does, well, at least what it did to me, was it was like, okay, if this kid loves me unconditionally, like I really don't care what anybody else thinks. So any residual immaturity in my character about caring what people thought about me, who I didn't even know or care about, all of that dissipated because getting that from a kid and realizing that it just doesn't really matter from anyone else, right? It just pales in comparison what someone else would think of you when you've got this person who looks at you kind of as a god in a way, as the man in their life. So I think really giving zero fucks after you have a kid, you just don't care about the validation of insignificant people in your realm and in your life.
Yeah, I would say that like it goes beyond that. Like you just give less fucks about anything, right?
Yeah.
It's just you, your progeny, your family, and that becomes numero uno. But it's hard. Like I don't know if I've taken anything like from child rearing and brought it into how I interact with women. But I would say that certain things enriched like through the understandings of dealing with children because you learn things about yourself and how you interact in a different way when you're interacting with a child through different stages, right? Like little baby all the way up through teen years and all that shit. Um, and the things that I learned both just with dealing with people, it all crossed over. So, like conditioning, like that sort of stuff, like operant conditioning, classical conditioning, like that sort of stuff, that there's crossover with that. Nurturing, right? Learning how to listen, not what they're presenting, but what they're really trying to say or express inside. Because like kids aren't really the best at showing like really what's in them. They don't have the wherewithal or the I don't know, the complexity of language to really express what's going on. So you tend to learn to read them and see what they're actually trying to say, like from their insides, like from their center. And that carries over. But I would say that's like I didn't learn that from children. It just kind of reinforced something that I was already doing with women.
Yeah, I'm the same way with Justin saying I had to come to Jesus moment that I only have like 17 years to do what I can to instill in them. But after the 17th year, when they get an adult, I won't have that kind of control. I won't have that power, like the power that I have over myself. So I have to accept their lifestyle. I have to accept what they're doing, but also I would have to also accept that because I in control of me, that it's the outside world that I would have to worry about. You know, you can teach your kids whatever you want to teach them, but you still have to worry about at the common denominator of other people that will either do harm to them. You had to worry about it's like other things that come in, drunk drivers. You have to worry about all these other variables and everything like that. That is basically out of your control. You know, with the game, you're in control, and the game you're in control of your life, you're in control of everything. But when you have kids, you can only give them that type of control up to they are in your house. And then when they become their own people, you have to accept what they are and realize that from that point, whether it's a boy or a girl, you can't stop them from doing what they do. You just got to be there to pick up the pieces. Mom, my tire popped. Mom, I need a tow, or mom, it's a different preparing, because it's when you're in control of your life, you got everything in control. They're little, and they're getting new to the world, and they're trying to find their way in the world and trying to become their own people. So it's just you just have to come to that moment and say, okay, well, okay, I could do what I can, teach you right from wrong, good or bad. Like I say, I don't drink or smoke, but my kids like to drink. So all my kids, they're not alcoholics, but they like to party, or they like to hang out, do things, not drugs or anything, but I got to accept it. But I can't tell them after 18 what to do. I've got to accept who they are and just move forward.
No, on that note, Steve, I took my daughter out driving for the first time to practice for her license.
Fuck.
In Brooklyn. And I was like sitting there, like, I was instinctively like pressing my foot on the brake when there was no fucking brake pedal there.
Oh, yeah, man. Fuck.
In the middle of Brooklyn traffic.
Good luck finding a parking space.
Yeah.
Damn. The parking's so crazy. Here's a fun one. What's a big difference between a single man's game and a father's game?
Nothing.
Game.
But go ahead, Sam.
I would ask, like, what do you mean? There's a few ways I would interpret that question. Like, could you clarify a little bit, like, the angle there?
It's extremely vague, but whatever's on your mind, I'd love to explore whatever that is.
Yeah, I mean, if I take it the way I imagine it, which is like, what do you change about the way that you sort of, I suppose manifest, right? Because we've all worked on ourselves and modified ourselves to enact our will on the world, like to do as we do as best we can, right? That, like, through personal growth and development. I would say that it's pretty much the same as a father. Like, dealing with a kid is the same way you deal with anyone that you're a caregiver for, right? Whether that's someone you take out on a first date, and I know it's different, but ultimately, for me, it's always been first and foremost, you're a caregiver. If someone that you have asked out, like, you've asked to meet you, if they say yes to that, there is a responsibility there. Like, as a man, you should make sure they know how they can get there, that they trust you, they're going to be all good, and they're putting their faith in you, right? From a biological sense, as a woman, she's putting her faith in you that you're going to take care of things and you're going to look after her. So I think on a sort of fundamental level, there's no change. Obviously, you care in a different way about a kid as you do for a first date, but the way that you should be manifesting and showing up is exactly the same, because you're a caregiver. That's the primary responsibility.
Yeah, I
I'll
was kind
throw
of
in,
joking.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was joking around, but I'm really not. There's really no difference. To bite off one of Steve's old lines from a number of years ago, he said, lion, you put him in a shopping mall, he's a lion. Put him in a zoo, he's a lion. Put him on Serengeti, he's a lion. Put him in the middle of New York, he's a lion. Like, it doesn't matter what context, what time period, what planet, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just you're there. You're creating your reality in that context, and then if you switch to a different context, you're doing it there.
Yeah. For me, I agree. Yeah, for me, there's no difference between being single and being a father. I'm not two different men. You know what I mean? I'm just a man, no matter what the title. Being a father is just something that I do, but being a man, that's just who I am. So I never shape shift my roles. I'm always the same. I bring the same standard not only to myself, but even as a father, like these two men do, and all three of y'all do. Whether I'm building my kingdom or raising my child, I leave with the same mindset, the same fire, the same code, the same self-respect. And fatherhood doesn't change me. It just gives me a new arena to apply what I already know and who I am. So my presence as a man doesn't soften because I'm a dad. My rules don't weaken and my mindset doesn't bend. I just become less of a man because I'm already the man. But it's just a role. Like for instance, we understand as fathers, when our kids go to school, right, or whatever, or first day of school and all that, it's not only that, we got to deal with the mom crying and all that other shit, you know, her baby going to school for the first day. There's levels to that. So being a father is not just dealing with the mother of the child, but it's also dealing with the child and putting your child in the care of somebody else. But that's a fatherly role, but that still doesn't change who I am. It's just a part of what I do.
To take this slightly off the fatherhood thing and into marriage, for example, there are some studies that show that married men are more attractive than single men. And part of how that is supposed to work is that when a man already has a woman, he acts in a certain way in some sense where a woman simply perceives him as more attractive. So I saw this happen in myself. I'm a married man. I went to a party with Justin Mark, for example. Sam knows who Justin is. And how people interacted was just different around me. So it's a funny thing. I'm not sure how to describe it, but any thoughts on that? That's marriage specifically, though.
Yeah, I mean, before you mentioned that experience, my initial thought was it's some of these like stats are kind of loaded because one of them is like, married guys are generally more successful than single guys, but the caveat to that is like if you're a marryable guy, if you're like worthy of being married to most women, it's usually because you're capable of a level of success. The guys who are incapable of getting married haven't reached. So my intuition was it's like married men are pre-selected, right? That there's a prerequisite that they're marryable, that they're worthy of being married, and therefore they're probably likely more attractive than many of the men who weren't able to get married or couldn't find a partner. But since you mentioned your experience, there's a slightly different angle on that. I would say again, it probably on a most basic level comes back to being fuckless, not caring what people think, right? That's obviously something that a single guy most single guys who are learning the game, they have to deal with a lot of psychological pain around worthiness and the pain of rejection as it is for many guys at the start. If you're in a committed relationship or married, you really don't need to care as much about that. So I imagine that could be a contributing factor.
Hmm.
Here's the funny thing. It's like when you're married and you're in that kind of situation and you're loyal, you're in the position where you are rejecting women. And it's just funny to see how it's just the complete reverse of what single guys are used to, because single guys would usually chase, and then an unavailable man would reject the woman. It's just a funny thing to see. You want to say something, Justin?
No, just pause for just 1 second. Steve, you could take.
Okay, yeah, for me, yeah, I've always been unavailable. Since I've been in the game since I was 9 years old. I've always learned that I never ever I never date women. I'm never in a relationship with a woman. They're always in a relationship with me. So when it comes to marriage, I'm married to the game, but a woman is married to me. So I've always like turned down women. Once you learn the game and learn your value, it's a whole different reality. But it's not to be cocky and saying that I'm all that. It's just that I know my worth and I don't just tolerate certain things. So I have a certain kind of standard I live by, regardless if I'm married or single. And I would just say that to any young man out there that, I've always said I don't want to push marriage on some people and tell them not to get married. Every man has his own decision, but I learned at a young age to be married to the game, to honor, cherish, love, and appreciate me first, and then allow a woman to be a part of my world, no matter if it's married or single or dating.
Any other
Yeah,
thoughts?
sorry about that. I was actually helping my son out with something. But
Doing
what
some
was
parenting.
yeah, what was the question?
It was still tied to the marriage fatherhood thing. How if that's an advantage over single guys, for example.
Mm. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah. I already put in my piece.
Alrighty. Next one. You have a son. Not all of us have sons. I have a daughter, but this question, if you did have a son, if you don't have one, would you teach your sons about game?
100%. Like 100%. For me, it sounds like Steve was much more natural. I don't know, possibly Justin as well, but it sounds like you came to this thing when you were young, and this all hit you real fast. For me, this was a struggle. Like I got in there relatively early, like 18, 19, but this was all completely new to me. Like I didn't believe it was going to work for me. I didn't have very high self-esteem at all. And so I learned all of this, and transparently, it's the thing like learning game first from a position of wanting power, wanting sex, wanting all the things that insecure young men want. And then learning all of that, that brought me to understand that all of that was trivial. And really, it was the journey, it was the adventure, it was the way that I'm learning and growing. That was the most valuable thing I've ever done. So he's learning from the moment he could speak. I'm teaching him, not straight, this is how you go up and chat to girls at school, but you're teaching them the psychology of it. You're teaching them how to behave well, the subtleties, the nuances of communication. You go to your friend's house, tell his mom how good the food smells. She's gonna love you forever. She's gonna let you stay around. She's gonna teach you things, you know? So for me, it's not direct with kids. You're imparting your wisdom in subtle ways, right? In the language that they will understand, in the situations that apply to them.
Yeah, I think that well, I've got a son, I've got a daughter as well, and it's direct. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Sam, as far as imparting wisdom that just kind of naturally fits into situations or what have you. But I'm most definitely, especially, man, new dog's going crazy. But the my son, he was just on Omegle yesterday, and so he was chatting that up with these girls. And I was telling him, I was giving him pointers, like, do the, try this out, say this, and and then it was like clockwork, like boom, boom, boom. And he's like, holy shit, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, like give that girl your number, tell her to get back at you in a couple hours when you get home. And then she did. And then just like on top of it, and just saying, like, hey, try this out, test this out, that, and you could see that the gears turning. That's the cool part, is you see the gears turning. And when the thing happens, it's like the light bulb starts coming on, and the gears turning, and the light bulb is getting brighter as the gears keep turning, and it's just a cool thing to watch. And I think that's one of the most interesting parts, is when you can see them starting to understand things and lighting up. But I don't really call it's strange, because like I don't really call that like game, because for me, and I know Steve agrees, there's no separation. There's no like, this is like, game is like a thing that I do, and then like at the end of the day, I put it in the drawer and close it and say, okay, game time is over. Like, it's the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, from this point until I die. Like, there's really no separation of realities for me.
Yeah,
Game is life.
yeah. For me, my father would always push your Williams. This is how Williams eats a sandwich. This is how Williams opens a door. And my dad, if you can always see him on, if you look on Fox News, look up Ted Williams, you'll see I'm just like him. He's
He's famous.
an arrogant, fucking selfish, cocky ass person. You see, but he always told me that you're a Williams, period. So, but when I started learning the game, and for me, learning the game was all about unconditional love. So what I would always teach my children, and still to, is that there's only one the daughters, there's only one man that loves you, and that's dad. I tell my sons I love you, and pushing that you're fine the way you are. Dad loves you, and you can always come to dad. You're gonna mess up. I'm there for you. I got your back. I'm not your friend, but you know what? I got you. I'm proud of you, and so on and so forth. But the love I did was not only teaching about girls. I taught my kids is in my world. I took them to Brazilian jiu-jitsu first, because I want them to fuck people up. I want them to learn how to protect themselves, because I can't fight for them. So I had to teach them how to protect themselves, but I also taught them how to love themselves, to appreciate themselves, to learn a standard for themselves, and allow people who want to come into their world to move on how they move, like as I did myself. So I just passed on a baton that I was given from my father down to them to say that, like I say with Justin, like not game, but loving yourself unconditionally and realizing that you're fine just the way you are and don't try to ever change for anybody else.
Perfect. You just led us perfectly into our next question. What's something you learned from your father that you really value, even if not dating related?
Um, for me, it was language, like learning how to use language, kind of or honoring vocabulary. My dad was very, very smart in the intellectual way, where he would always have the right word for the right situation, whether anyone understood that word or not, he knew it, and people kind of respected him for that. And I think language is, I mean, it's the most important tool we have. It's the only thing that truly separates us from other animals was our ability to communicate in complex ways that allowed us to form large groups and conquer tribes and form technology and everything else. And for me, from a very early age, I honored language and an ability to express your ideas clearly through words. And so I would say that wasn't something that he taught me. That was something I learned from him. I'm from England. Parents in England are not teachers. They're very, very humble. England is it's a place where there's a thing called tall poppy syndrome. People don't like to stand out. People don't like to preach. People don't like to overtly educate. And so my dad taught me nothing, but I learned things from him.
Yeah, dads will do that. I think we have a way of teaching without teaching,
Mm.
and then we do overtly sit. I mean, at least that's how it was with me. There are times to sit down and say, all right, this is something that you must learn, and whether it's something to do with behavior, the way you think about something, or a direct skill, right? And I think the most important thing my father told me was, we were driving in the car, and I was maybe about 12 years old, and he said, Justin, the one thing about life is that all it is just a series of choices. That's it. And he's like, you think it's complicated, but it's not. He's like, it's just a series of choices. And he didn't like follow that up with anything like, any like witty quip. It's just like, no, that's what it is. And that really uh, carried with me throughout my whole life, because that's what it comes to. And as men, throughout life, we get set between crossroads all the time. And we got to decide, like, what are we going to do? And am I going to stay true to myself? Am I going to go over here? Is this influencing me? What do I want? There's so many things, and it constantly comes up. And so I think that, yeah, that's probably about the most important thing that I picked up from my father.
Yeah, for me, I wrote, but that's like the first thing I wrote in my book. One mom, two dads. So my father taught me personality, drive, discipline. He taught me how to just, be a ladies' man. But my stepfather, he was an asshole. He taught me toughness. So I was lucky to get like kind of two things. So on one end, I learned I have, how to have personality, to be fun, be carefree, be laid back, but also a street toughness of not letting like things slide and not letting anybody cross any boundaries and not letting anybody try to disrespect you. Don't start fights, but protect yourself and realize that you're allowed to protect yourself if somebody's trying to do harm to you. So I got kind of like both two worlds, two different fathers at one time.
Oh, for one, an example from my own, just like Justin and Sam were saying, it's like this particular thing I learned from my dad. He didn't specifically teach me. It's just something I observed from him. And that was how organized he was. So that probably explains why I am so obsessed with organizing things. Like I would see him have these like boxy folders and organized financial stuff and things like that. And then at some point, more than 10 years ago, I started um, looking at my statements weekly and going through my finances. I know like every single thing I have bought using a card, not cash, but using a card for many years because I have documented everything. So it's just like the financial keeping everything in line every single week is just something he didn't specifically teach me, but it's something I observed and kind of picked up on and made my own version of. All right, let's jump on to the next one. How important is it for a man to be in control and have strong leadership?
Yeah, it's pretty important. I don't know how to answer that question. It's like it's absolutely essential. But I don't know what more to say about it than that.
I'll throw in, for example, the way I kind of think about this is when you're a child, and we all have children of our own, you're supposed to follow. And then at some point, you have to start leading your own life and leading others. And I feel like a lot of people don't really get that transition where they start becoming leaders and they just become stay as followers their whole lives. So if you guys have had any thoughts alongside this or anything about leadership.
Well, you mentioned control, and I think one of the most important things for a man as well as a father is emotional control. I've seen way too many. Like I've been involved, in the parenting things, PTA shit, picking up kids at school, all sorts of different things at the parks, and watching how parents behave. And I've seen so many parents losing their shit, like just completely unraveling emotionally, and it's not a good look. And like especially like when I see a man doing this, and so I think that as far as control is concerned, I think it's imperative that men learn emotional control, because if you do become a father, the edges of that will be tested in so many different ways, from infancy all the way up to teenage years. And not only is it foundational for you as the man to have this, it's also important that they see this, that they see something happening. Say there's an emergency, you're driving down the highway and boom, there's a blowout. Are you going to lose your fucking mind, or are you going to just calmly take care of the situation? And they're like, oh, and like they're maybe scared, but they're like, oh, dad's cool. All right, I can settle down. It's kind of like when you're with a dog, right? And if you're tense, they will pick up on that
Mm.
shit, you know? And it's the same sort of thing. Like if you're freaking out, the kid's gonna be like, "Oh, well, the big ones are freaking out. I guess I'll freak out too." And
True.
and so the emotional control, I think, is probably one of the most important things that you can do for yourself, but also that the children can learn.
Dude, that's so true. So I'll just come in and say that that's so true. And you see it so much, you're right, at the park and at school. Like sometimes when I drop my son off at school, he's young, he's only 6 now. When I drop him off at school, I'd see some kids and I was like, damn, this kid doesn't look okay. The kid's just anxious. You can read it all in their face. They're tense, they're anxious. And I'm like, damn, what happened? Then the mum shows up to pick up the kid and the mum is just a ball of anxiety. And you're like, huh, this is purely just a sort of stasis of chaos that family unit lives in. They're stuck in a cycle of pain or chaos or anxiety, and the kids can't help but just absorb all of that. So yeah, no, 100% as a father, emotional, not just control, but regulation, right? Being able to pull back from the brink if we get triggered by something, our emotions get triggered by something, to be able to say, no, I'm above that, I'm stronger than that. That doesn't control me, I'm in control of that. That's definitely has a huge reflection on your child, and not just your child, but your dog, as you said. It's contagious.
I would see that a lot in Tesco when I was living in England. I would see like a woman yelling at her kids. She would have like 6 kids or something. I'm like, what the fuck? What a weird reality to live in. The same thing happens in Canada too, but it's like it's just crazy to me. Because I don't have many cousins, but one side of the family is all female, and that side of the family is exactly like that. And I just cannot, I haven't seen many of my cousins for years, but when I was younger, I just couldn't bear hanging out with them. So- because it would be too crazy, too stressful, and all that kind of drama stuff. Any other comments on this?
Yeah, for me, leading is like breathing. So I don't understand how not to lead, but I was lucky because I mean I'm you know I was born in the 70s, right? So things were a little bit different back then. And in the 80s, in my teen years, things are different because
That's
I
so
didn't
good.
have I didn't have helicopter parents. You know, I had discipline. You know, there was no CPS back then, so if you wasn't in by the lights when the lights came on at night, you getting your ass whipped. If you you had
Oh,
to
I didn't enter the home, Steve. I was locked out.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know back then they didn't play, but it wasn't just the parents. It was when I was playing sports, especially football. You know, mom would take me to football and sit right on the sideline and watch. And thank God it was great. Watch my coach grab my face mask, punch me in the chest, throw me on the ground, tell me to get my ass up and take laps, and didn't do anything about it. It was the best thing ever. It gave you a toughness. I mean, where there was no coddling of me. You know, they knew that in order for me to be the man that I am, that I would have to have discipline and have to go out there and sometimes have to figure things myself out without them having to be around me to pick up the pieces. But they had to make sure that, look, you're gonna be out there, but you better represent the name. You know, always represent my name. It was one thing like when you go out, you're representing me. So if you do anything that goes against the representation of me, then that's where we gonna get our asses whipped, man. A lot of whippings. But yeah.
That's a cool story, Steve, but do you have any participation trophies?
No. We didn't know because remember, but I was before everybody's a winner. We had field day, so field day was based off of in the summertime. But right before we got out of school in elementary school, it was like Olympics for kids. So they only had three ribbons. There was blue, red, and white, and everybody else fucking lost. So that was it. You would run it, whoever could run around the bases the fastest, or
Yeah.
whoever could kick the ball the far. They just had little events for us kids. But the beautiful thing about it, they only had three ribbons, and everybody else fucking lost outside of those three ribbons. So it was cool.
You know, when I was coming out, see, I'm a little bit younger than you, but not by much. But I remember when that shift happened. And it was when I was in soccer, when the shift to participation. And the years prior, it was just like that. Like there was like the MVP, there was like top like assisting player. There was only like a couple trophies that they gave to the soccer players.
Mm-hmm.
And then one year they rolled out, we're all sitting in this giant cafeteria, right? Because it was a league. And they started calling everybody up. And then we get this little trophy. It wasn't as big, but it's this little gold figure made out of plastic, kicking a ball on this tiny marble platform. And I'm sitting there going, I busted my fucking ass this season. And idiot over there with the Coke bottle glasses who didn't play a lick of a game, gets a fucking trophy too. And I'm sitting there like 10 years old, like, what the fuck is going on here? 1987. Blew my mind.
It's
And everything changed from that. Everything changed from that point.
the 80s kind of started fucking everything up, I think.
Well, no, just like mid to late 80s, it just started shifting away from like, if you suck, you get left behind. And then they're like, well, if you suck, you can still hang out with us. It's like, no, like losers were left behind like in the 70s, man.
Mm-hmm.
On to the next one. How can guys make sure they pick the right woman they have children with?
Well, that's a good one. Time. Like for me, it's I don't know. It's a really good question because sometimes sometimes the red flags, you know when someone might not be, and you're almost always right. If you think someone might not be good for that, you're almost always right, in my experience. But to know if someone will be right for that is a much harder question. And for me, I guess I was kind of lucky because I got to see my wife as a mother, right, to my son over time and watching me go out and make my mistakes and also, live my life. And I got to see how she was in the hardest situations as a mother, and always good, always doing it right, always putting the child first, always behaving elegantly throughout that. So I think I was lucky to have an experience where I got it proven to me that she would be a good mother. But I would say for other guys, based on my situation, time is the important thing, because red flags are easy to spot, but the absence of red flags is harder to know without a passage of time that shows you consistently wholesome behavior.
I'd say the answer to this question is, in reality, it's a lot more complicated, but in its simplest form, the best way to know is by knowing yourself. And that comes down to having your internal structures in line, knowing what all that is, what it does, what it represents, having a well-oiled understanding and functioning program. Because the better you can operate this program, the easier it is to find out what works and what doesn't. It's kind of like if you've got like a company and you're kind of foggy on what you do, you can pretty much hire anybody and they can kind of sort of adapt to that. But if it's really well defined and you've got bylaws, you've got, contingency plans, you have, future projections planned, you got everything modeled out perfectly and it runs well, you know exactly what employees work and what employees don't work. And it's clear as fucking day. So I would say that the greatest thing that a man can do as far as picking the right woman is making sure you pick yourself first and understand yourself and develop your world as well defined as possible, and that makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I totally agree. And not only that, just for me, uh, a woman has to be worthy of certain things. She has to be worthy of my time and my attention. She has to be worthy of my respect. And then she might get the dick, but if she gets the dick, and we're talking about children, again, for all people who have children out of wedlock, I'm not like saying y'all are bad people. I'm never saying that you people have children all the time out of wedlock, but I'm just saying that the game I was taught was that you had to be worthy of my name first, and then you have to be worthy of having my children. But to even be worthy of my name, the discussion of your children we have to have a conversation. We have to have understanding of discipline, religion, how we're going to if is it going to be Christmas or Halloween, discipline. I mean, again, like Justin was saying, it's just not I'm gonna bust a nut up inside you, and you're gonna end up pregnant. That's where everything goes wrong. We got to have a front, and we got to work together. And even if, and like I tell some guys out there, and they have breakups with their women or something like that, you still got to be a parent first, and you still got to work with the mom first, even if the things don't work out. So, and because everything doesn't work, because a lot of people don't have game, but a lot of people do have children and have children out of wedlock, whatever. So when they're with and I always try to teach them, just because you didn't work out with the mother, you're gonna have to, what I call, take that L sometimes and do what's right for best for your kid. As far as, we don't work out, but let me come to you in a way where you and I have such a relationship that we work together in all aspects. So meaning that if you're in trouble at mom's place, you're in trouble at my place. I'm going to be involved. You're going to be involved with the child, and we're going to have a two-front household, two households. So it's like I said, I don't want to get into it, but it's so many levels. It's just not having a kid, but we have to also prepare ourselves for, school, college, clothes, boys dating girls dating boys. You got to deal with girls, adolescence, periods, cramping, going ups and downs, terrible twos. It's not, like Justin said, it's not just I can nut up in you and do that. It's so many variables and so many layers, but it's just two different perspectives. One coming from marriage, one coming from outside of marriage, and how you're going to work it, or marriage and being divorced. So there's just so many It's just like one word won't be able to answer because it just depends on the situation itself.
Yeah. I would just add one more thing, which is kind of related and interesting. It's something that I learned like talking to guys that contact me. Like as a coach or in these positions, you talk to a lot of people, right, before you work with them. And some of them you work with and some of you don't. Some of them you don't. But something I learned over the past 5 years is that very often there's like a direct correlation between the guy that says, I had a crazy ex, or, my ex-girlfriend was crazy, the mother of my child is crazy, she did this, she did that. And the guy that comes to you and says, like, no, she was a good woman. Part of it's on me. I take responsibility for that. I can almost always tell when the guy's got it right or got it wrong, when she made mistakes or when he made mistakes. The guy that says, I take responsibility for that. She was a good woman, it just didn't work out. Usually that guy's been wronged, right? And the other guy is like, oh, my ex is crazy. It's like, you probably drove her crazy, bro. So I've found that there's like a correlation between how much responsibility the guy is taking for the relationship, and how positively he speaks about the other person, and how likely it is that he got things right, and she made the mistake. So it's kind of related and just interesting, to note that, like, yeah, that sort of taking responsibility is a very, very clear sign of a man who's like got his stuff together, right? And is usually, got his head screwed on straight, because it's almost always that way in my experience.
Yeah, I would take all the responsibility because she's coming into my world. So
Yeah,
I would have
yeah,
to make sure because she's coming in my life, my world, that I'm accountable for everything that happens. But also being accountable is knowing in my program, knowing that again, being worth my time, being worth my attention. Oh, I know what dating is to me, and if she doesn't hit that criteria, we're not going forward. If she goes forward to a relationship, there's another criteria in which she has to meet. If she doesn't meet that criteria, there won't be a relationship. Then moving in and everything. So as a man, I always put it on myself because she's coming into my world. So if she's coming in my world, like you're saying, man, I have to take all the accountability. And if she is what she is, because I don't believe, because I'm just maybe all of us here, but people can think we're probably weird, but I don't see problems in relationships and marriages because I don't have issues with women because I am responsible for how I maintain my relationship with myself and her being with me.
Interesting. We got some tears in the chat. Some wholesome stuff being said too. There's a guy who asked in the chat, what is the best thing your children ever said to you in regards to you being their father?
Being there,
in
who?
regards to what?
Um, what's the best thing your children have ever said to you, basically, as their parent?
um yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe not like one thing. But for me, it's like when like my son would often surprise me by like showing that he's learned a lesson, right? So I will teach him something. As we said, I will like try and impart wisdom in the way it could, translating it in a way that he will understand a lesson, right? And oftentimes he's kind of like looking away, or it seems like he's distracted. And then like a week later, something will show up and he'll repeat back the thing I taught him in a really intelligent way. Like he will have understood it and applied it to a different concept. So we talked about black holes. He got really interested in black holes. He's 4 years old. And I told him that like stuff goes in there, but it can't come out. Something called an event horizon. And then I was giving him a bath and he looks at the whirlpool and he's like, Daddy, it's kind of like a black hole, isn't it? Because stuff gets sucked down there and we don't know where it goes. We can't see it and nothing comes back out. I was like, oh my God, we think of them as being simpler and less intelligent, but in some ways, the plasticity of their mind, right? The openness of their mind, and without those rigid walls that we've learned to understand this and understand that, they have a type of intelligence that we can only approach, but we can't fully embody that a kid has.
Yeah, yeah. For me, gratitude. I've always been a big fan of gratitude, just with anything, right? So recognizing it with myself, expressing it to other people, and having it come back to me. And when my kids have the ability to say thank you for something, and I know it's not like I bought them a new pair of shoes for school, like nothing like that, right? It's more like heartfelt. It's something that they came to as like an understanding, and they want to offer that back. That to me is like one of the greatest things that I've ever heard. Now, of course, they said all kinds of awesome shit when they were little kids. You know, being in the middle of a restaurant, and you know, they go to the table behind them. They're like, "I'm wearing Superman underwear," to a complete stranger, and so it's like that sort of shit is you know, is it's cherished as well. But yeah, the gratitude is a big thing for me.
All right, here for me, I gotta go after this, but for me, it's like today's my birthday, so my kids are telling me how
Happy
much
birthday, bro.
I
Happy birthday,
Happy
man.
New Year.
yeah, yeah. So
God bless.
the kids are telling me how much they love me and appreciate me and all the other stuff. That's the cool thing. But what's even better is the people they've become. That's the best thing that they can show me, that they are upstanding people. They have drive. I got two that are being doctors. I got one that's a model that's on TV now, and I got one working towards being an engineer. So they just grind, bust their asses. They don't get in trouble. They're not no law troubles, and maybe a ticket, a speeding ticket or so, or a ticket here and there. That's, you know, we all gonna get that. But the best thing is just the kind of people they are. That's the best thing. They're saying that, you know what, Dad, what you taught me stuck with me now that I'm out of your house, because they're all out of the house. So now they're out of the house. It's like now I'm going to live my life, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to have your teaching. So just how they are as people, you know, they're good members of society, and I think for that, that's, to me, that's the best. Thank you.
Nice. Perfect.
All right, well, guys, hey, I got to get out of here, but thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to all the
Yo,
dads.
nice to meet
All
you,
right,
Steve.
Steve.
Y'all are good men,
Nice to
man.
meet you, Steve. That was
Thank
good,
you.
some good knowledge you're dropping. So thank you, man.
No
And
doubt.
happy
Respect to
birthday.
y'all.
All right, Steve.
Have a
Enjoy
good
your
one.
day.
Take care.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
jumping in. That's some
All
real
right, thank
shit.
you.
Legacy, guys, legacy. Anything you guys want to talk about?
Um,
No,
yeah,
go
I
right
mean,
ahead.
I would actually ask Justin a question.
Yeah.
Um, just stuff that I'm curious about. Like I see it as an ever growing kind of education, being a father as your kid grows, the things you got to understand grows. I'd ask a question about like boundaries. One experience that I've had that I found pretty interesting is like, you know, you need your kid to do something, and a lot of the time they do what you say, right? Especially when it's dad talking. Sometimes they push that, like they can push that boundary, especially when they're trying to figure out their identity, and they'll maybe reject what you're saying or wait a little bit to respond and see how you respond. And I guess I would just ask like a broad question about boundaries is like, have you dealt with that, and how do you deal with that if you feel like there's a boundary, right? Like if the tension raises, or if you need them to do something and they're not doing it, at what point do you, you know, if you're like counting down from 10 for them to do something and they wait until second one, like what is your, I suppose, process when you're dealing with chaos or them pushing boundaries?
Well, I think it's different depending on the age. I think that's a big deal. So when they're really young, you want them to do this. You want them to explore and
Mhm.
push boundaries so they can kind of, you know, do the whole fuck around and find out sort of thing. And then as they get older, you know, my daughter's 17, my son is 13. I still want them to fuck around and find out, but now they understand that there are consequences, right? There's not many consequences when you're like 5 years old, right? But there's real consequences. Like my daughter, I had to pick her up out of jail, right? And she was with a friend, and they're writing graffiti in the subway, and there happened to be an undercover police officer right there. That's, to me, it was hilarious, right? It was fucking hilarious. I took pictures of her, like when they were like she was getting her stuff back. To me it was a hoot. But I was like, there you go. There you learned, right? So boundaries will be taught to them. You know what I'm saying? And she learned a good lesson. Now, as far as things that I need to enforce, yeah, I've experienced lots of ego, right? And I mentioned classical conditioning, operant conditioning, like Pavlovian mechanics. Like I utilize that shit with women, and I utilize that shit with children. It's all the same shit. Like we're subject to it on a daily basis in numerous places. So why not exercise them in your world, right? And so I use this with my children as far as rewards, as far as punishments, as far as like getting their attention to see and understand some things. And and sometimes you got to push harder than they are, so that they're,
No.
you know, it's like, yeah, I want to see your ego, right? I want to see you flex, right? Because that's part of what we have to do. We have to learn as we grow to flex ourselves into the reality that we're in, right? I don't want to constantly smush it down, because I've seen that to happen to people where their parents really kind of squash down the development of their ego, and they become introverts. They become afraid to
Yeah.
express themselves. They become afraid to assert themselves in the world, with other people and things and environments. And I don't want that. Okay, but they do need to understand that I'm also someone not to fuck with. And there are other people in the world that are not to be fucked with. Systems and organizations, things like that. And so, yeah, there's been some instances where I've had to punish, right, to let them know that there's a boundary here, whether it's with their behavior or something that they've done. And I haven't had uh, like further problems of that thing, right?
Yeah.
So the lesson was learned, and then the boundary was understood, and then it was just carried on. It's like, okay, that's a thing not to fuck with dad on.
So
Yeah.
when your daughter's wedding happens, invite me to it and show everyone the photos of her
Oh
being
yeah,
picked up
on the big screen. Yes, on the
on a
big
big
screen, we're going
screen.
through memories and stuff. Like here she was
Remember
when
this?
yeah, when I picked you up at the Brooklyn jail down by the water. Yep.
No, that's some funny stuff. It was interesting. Sam mentioned counting down from 10. 10 is too much. I count
Yeah.
down from free.
Yeah.
This is how I do it. Free, two, one. I just give, and if it hits zero. So what my daughter used to do up until kind of recently, she's 5 years old right now. I would say free. Sometimes she would try to be cheeky and say two. Then I would say two. I'm not
Mhm.
going skipping to one though, because what she says is irrelevant to what I'm saying.
Mhm.
The count is according to me. I'm not letting
Mm.
her count. But if she mentions two, I'm going to say two. And when I reach one and she says zero, then okay, we agree. I'm going to say zero now. So I don't say that. I literally just say zero. And then that's what you wanted. So she gets sent to her room, or I take the toy away, or whatever the case is, the candy, whatever. 10 is too much. Free is just extremely simple. I found it to be extremely effective.
Yeah. And
Aside
you
from
can use
that,
the
no,
three
it's
count. You can use the three count with women too.
yeah.
You can.
That's a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of boundaries, that's great that you asked that, Sam, because I had a question noted for boundaries. How would you apply boundaries to women too? Your wife or someone you're
Yeah.
seeing?
Well, this is kind of why I asked the question, because we mentioned the fuck around and find out. And I guess what I'm curious about is the find out. And that's a very good segue question, because with women, the find out is, for me, it's always been you've sort of disengaged my attention, right? So if I'm, if you're on a date, or if you're setting up a date, or if you're in any of that process and you warn that a boundary is being overstepped, and then the boundary is overstepped, there's a withdrawal of attention until the situation is resolved. It's her move, like a game of chess, to resolve that. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna come back and try and make amends when a boundary is crossed. They know it's been crossed. It's like that's not my move. That's their move. But with a kid, the find out part of fuck around and find out is very different, because you're not going to disengage. You're not going to dislocate. You're not going to refrain from talking or engaging with your kid until they've addressed it. It's your kid. You got to take them up. You got to address it. So the find out part is, I guess, what I'm curious about. Because when I got down, you know, like getting out of the bath or something simple, it's not like I count down to 10 if they're in the middle of the road playing and there's cars coming. It's like if they're, you know, in the bath and they need to get out, I give them a bit of time and then it gets down to 2 and he's looking at me like, what's going to happen? And I'm like, you don't want to find out. And then he'll come out, right? But I'm curious about what's the ammunition there, because it's kind of like you got the wooden gun, the policeman with the fake gun, and it's like no one tests it because it looks like a real gun. But it's like, what's the ammo there? Because I think one of the risks, the father is like, okay, go to your room. It's like, okay, like there has to be something behind it.
that's where all their personal fun stuff is.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
what's the ammunition that you have? And I guess to elaborate more, for me, physical violence is something that I don't want to ever
Mm.
introduce. I think I know I get why some people are there, and maybe in different cultures, in different parts of the world, in different times in history, things were different. But for me, it's never ever felt in any way like an available or desirable option. I just wouldn't, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't want to ever do that. But so then what's the ammunition? Because when we think about our lives in society, it's always a threat of physical violence, right? You don't pay your taxes, they send you a letter, you ignore the letter, they pull you to court, you don't go to court. At some point, someone's coming to your door and dragging you there. And if you don't come, what's next? There's always a threat of physical violence, and that's the ammunition to force us or move us to act in accordance with the laws or the rules of that system. So what is it with a child that you're not going to hurt?
I'll I'll just
That's kind of my question.
briefly, I'll just briefly and quickly say a lot of power is illusion. It's an illusion. So I'll just say that. Justin.
Oh, well, so I come from a different place. Sam, you don't know. I assume you do, but you know, I live an alternative BDSM lifestyle, so enacting these sort of things is not a problem for me in relationships. But in a particular ammo for the bath situation, what I would do is I just turn on the cold water. If you're sitting in a nice warm tub, I just blast the cold water and just let it go until it became so uncomfortable and no longer a fun tub that he has to get out.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a good one. That reminds me. Yeah, I would literally use cold showers. So if my daughter, for example, if she it sounds horrible. Like if she's not supposed to do something, like she didn't go to the bathroom correctly, she made a mess or something, cold shower time. And I did the same with my cat. Like when I had a cat, when a cat would pee on the floor or shit on the floor where they're not supposed to, I'm giving the cat a cold shower.
Mhm.
Cats don't like water, so it's actually the cat where I originally got this idea from, but that's very similar.
Spray bottle. Yeah.
That's one example, but
Hmm.
that one, yeah, nobody likes the fucking, not many people like cold showers.
Dude, I've lost that ammo because I've already persuaded him how good cold baths are. Like he's like, can we have a cold one
Yeah.
today? So this is again,
Well, good luck.
it's the fake gun, isn't it? Like a cold bath can be the greatest fear, or it can be something that's like exciting and adrenaline filled. So yeah, I guess it speaks to that point of the power is illusory to some extent, right? The fear
Well,
of a cold bath is just a framing.
well, the thing that I noticed, like especially like that I've learned from my lifestyle, is that um, for anything to be effective, it has to have some sort of emotional or sensory strength, and that's how a point can be made, right? And it goes the other side. Like let's say like with rewards or something, people hear about like love language nonsense. You know, like if someone has a love language of gifts and you give them quality time, it's not really going to hit, right? If somebody has like a doesn't have a fear of say or discomfort with cold water and you give them cold water, they're just like, oh, okay, like that's just normal. So it's got to be something that actually kind of like resonates, uh and each person is different, but it's like paying attention to those particularities that allows you to understand what those leverage points are. And it could be something that's cherished, right? It could be some sort of enjoyment that you're removing. um
Yeah.
and but I'm with you about the time thing. Just like stonewalling, like that's absolutely not something that I would advise as a
Yeah.
parent. um that's not good practice. I actually don't advise that like when dealing with anybody, right? I think just because to me that's being very passive aggressive, right? You know,
I
stonewalling and like holding off, like I'm not going to do this, you know, and
no, for
I'm
sure.
not moving until they do something, and it's like, no, I'm taking charge here, you know.
Yeah, I guess what I mean, just to clarify that one in the sort of early dating situation, it's like from in my experience, there are some times where it simply is no longer your move, right? If you say no, that's not appropriate or that's not acceptable, this is what's gone wrong, and it continues, right? Sometimes there's an antagonistic. I'm sure everyone's experienced that when someone's just trying to be antagonistic or they know that it's unacceptable and they're sort of almost just wasting their energy enjoying getting things wrong or doing things the way they're not supposed to be done. At some point, I understand it as like, okay, this game's
Stop.
over. I'm moving on to I'm moving on to something else. This is your move. There's nothing more I care to do in this situation. So yeah, that's after the sort of relevant avenues that I would care to pursue have been extinguished. Like after you've had the conversation, after you've made it clear. If that continues for me at some point, it's like this, I'm moving on to a different game now. You can figure out what you want to do over there. I'm over here.
Yeah, that to me just is like grounds for dismissal.
Yeah, that's kind of
Mhm.
what I mean.
Yeah.
But I'm always going to be open to further if they want to discuss it, if they want to come back and explain themselves. I'm not going to refuse the opportunity for someone to apologize because the apology is usually more for them than it is for us. So let them get that off. But yeah, that's just to clarify the difference with a dating situation and a child. You can't really turn off.
No, and you shouldn't, right?
No.
Because they need to not learn that,
Yeah, that's the worst skill.
right?
That's the
Yeah.
worst habit to inherit is not addressing
Right. Like
conflict in any way.
so many people they get because they do it with themselves, right? So like I was going back to like saying that the communication with the self. If you have a habit of sweeping things under the rug, never really addressing anything, you know, as far as like with how you deal with yourself, right? Gaslighting yourself, ignoring things, um, then you're going to carry that into your other interactions, and
Yeah.
you're going to carry that into your interactions with children. And so they're going to see you do that. They're going to experience it directly. And so if you're never really addressing anything, if you're just sweeping things under the rug and then like changing direction, like, oh, like, don't worry about that. Let's go get ice cream. Right. And they're going to learn that.
Yeah.
And not only are they going to learn that that's possible, right? That one can just sweep an issue under the rug, they also learns that like if they're part of that interaction, that they're half of the things, like whether they were affected by that situation or it's something that they did, right? Whether they were like the receiver or the antagonist of this situation, they will learn that those feelings and their perceptions and all that stuff is just not addressed.
Yeah. It's ultimately just destabilizing. I mean, it's destabilizing for them. I mean, something that I kind of came to an understanding of when my son was first born and I was trying to figure it out was that all he really needs is unquestioned love and uncompromised security. Like if he knows that he is fundamentally loved and he knows that he is fundamentally secure or feels fundamentally secure. He was born in Brazil, so it's another question, but he feels that he's fundamentally secure. As long as they feel those two things, they're good. They don't really care about anything else. And that them not knowing if you're okay with them or them sensing an energetic shift that's because of you, that's ultimately destabilizing and that's a security threat to them. And they cannot, I believe, grow and form normally if there is an imminent security threat, which could be from the external world or it could be from inside the house with a parent whose energy has shifted. So, yeah, anyway.
And I think it's good to explain these things to them. I've been in situations where, say, like I was upset about something and had nothing to do with them, and I noticed this more, especially with my son, uh, where he would be wondering if he did something wrong, right? and or that there was something that involved him, right? That was something. So I had to assure that, like, no, this is completely outside of your realm, right? This is just something going on with me, because of what you had said before, like how they relate to you, how they can look up to you. Um, they're like, I think they grow to constantly read you,
Yeah.
and I'm not like that often, but it they I think they need to understand, and have those explanations and say, nah, you know what, I just had like this messed up thing happen with work or whatever the situation. I'm frustrated with something I'm working on with a car, and then they're like, oh, okay, right,
Yeah.
because they will do that. They internalize a lot. they
Yeah.
they really internalize a lot.
And often because they haven't fully separated the idea of different people having independent experiences, right? That's something you learn, but like between infancy and sort of 4 or 5 years old, that you are not the center of the world. Like anything they see as a problem in the family, they often attribute to themselves.
Yeah.
I certainly had that experience as a child of thinking that anything that happened was my fault, and knowing that logically it's not, but there's a sense that it must be because of you, because you haven't fully formed your identity outside of outside of other people, independently from other people. It feels like they're part of your game, uh, if that makes sense. So I agree. I think the energy is so important, and to delineate what is in within their realm and what is outside of their realm.
Yep.
Interesting stuff. Um, Communication is an interesting thing. So I'm just also thinking in terms of with women, I would often say, especially in friend frame situations. So, she's a female friend and she has questions like, what if having sex will ruin our friendship kind of thing? Or just situations similar to that with women. There would be times when I would express or say the exact words, you can tell me anything. And I say the same thing to my daughter because I learned that from my dating life too. You can tell me anything. So when my daughter is hesitant to tell me something, and you can tell me anything, I'm not going to be mad or that kind of thing. I wouldn't say it like that with a woman. It's just like I'm making her comfortable. It's like making my children, I just have one at the moment, but the others I will have in the future, no, giving them the right communication that they can literally tell me anything. If someone has been bullying them, if they're afraid to say something, if they're afraid of something, um, just let me know. It's my job as your parent to guide you, not to make things worse for you, not to be mad at you. It's just like Justin was saying when his daughter was being picked up from jail. It's like, I wouldn't be mad at her. The police already did that.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to double down on it. You're just like, give her the space.
Yeah.
She obviously knows not to do that again, that kind of thing. But you're there. You're there to address their concerns. You're there to make them feel better, even if they did something relatively bad. So, you're always attached to them.
Actually, Ice, there's something really interesting in what you said, which I think is something I've been working on a lot with my clients, especially the guys that are I'm working with a lot of guys at the moment who are either coming out of a relationship, a divorce, or actually still wanting to be back with that woman, which is very often difficult. One of the things that we're talking about a lot, and it's so obvious, it's like the first law of influence with communication. It's so simple, but it's amazing how many guys haven't got that down, is you can tell someone, like you said, telling her, you can tell me anything. And like it seems an obvious thing to say, but that is incredibly powerful. And telling people, a lot of guys are like, oh, she does this, she treats me like this. And I'm like, have you asked her not to, or told her how you like to be treated, right? Subtly or directly. And it's amazing. Like it was amazing to me to realize that if you just say like, yeah, I like this, I like to be treated this way, or like I like this type of communication, or I like it when people do this, I like it when people do that. People then subconsciously or consciously try to act the way you like them to act with you, right? And so many guys, I see them like living in these relationships, romantic or familial or friendships, where they are annoyed or unhappy at the way they're being treated, but they literally haven't uttered the words or stated or suggested how they like to be treated. And it's bizarre to me, but I've always found, particularly with a game and the early dating stages, of just telling people what you like, how you like to be treated, like what you appreciate in other people, even if that person isn't yet invested in you fully, they'll still be sort of subconsciously swayed to act in the way that you've told them you like people to act. It's a very interesting thing I've noticed about like human nature in general is we tend to act the way people like us to act. Maybe it's more agreeable people that do that, but it's certainly like a really good starting point.
Yeah. It's like sometimes my wife would say, like, she's the queen, I'm the king kind of thing. And then my daughter would kind of come up with the same kind of thing where she's a princess, I'm the king, my wife's the queen. And then, okay, so act like one. Half jokingly, but it's like, if she is dressed very nicely and she has a minor behavior, like whatever that may be, that is less desirable. I'm not trying to be controlling or anything, but it's just like, don't pick your nose in public or do some other random unhygienic things. But this a princess would not do that kind of thing. I just find I don't know, there are just so many ways to go and it can be pretty ambiguous to mention these outside of the box conversation techniques and communication strategies. But yeah,
Yeah.
any other thoughts on this?
No, I mean I've probably gotta jump off and attend to childcare duties of sorts. But no, it's a pleasure to meet. I'd like to know more from you, Justin. It's very interesting to have this conversation, and I'm glad we got a chance to meet now. I'm sure it could have happened on one of these calls. I've been massively out of the loop for the last 9 months or so, but it's a great pleasure to meet you, my friend.
Yeah,
And
yeah, likewise.
Quick final question for you.
go on.
Has being a father made you rethink the ethics of some pickup strategies?
No, that I question. I did have a moment, as Steve said, a come to Jesus moment earlier on, but I was already I'd already questioned all of those ethics and value based things that I was doing. I'd found the moral gray areas in what I was doing, specifically with infields. I wrestled with that for 5 or 6 years. Fundamentally, is it okay to be filming these without the other person knowing that they're being filmed beforehand? And I was very, very conscious of like, am I living within my values, within my ethics, or am I somewhere in a gray area, which tends to have like a toxic effect on the mind if you're behaving against your values for any period of time. So yeah, having a kid, I'd already like I was well aware of what my values were and when I was living within them or outside of them.
Sure. And I would say like, well, I mean, first off, I don't really practice pickup. I don't I don't quite like it. And then the thing about it, what you said about the morals, the values, codes, principles, things of that nature, um, like that alone would just prevent me from behaving in that way, right?
Mm,
So it's always like, again, earlier when I was mentioning this sort of thing, like it doesn't matter like what the context is just about doing your best to maintain your thoughts, words, and behavior along those lines, like regardless of the thing, and you'll never come across an ethical struggle, right?
yeah.
As long as it's challenging, right? And this is like, what religious people deal with. They're trying so hard to be a good, faithful Christian and follow the Ten Commandments and all the teachings of Jesus and all that. It's the same sort of thing, but like I wrote the commandments like for myself, and each day trying to live up to that. And that's the thing that prevents me from really having uh, like ethical dilemmas, right? I just simply don't. Because I know if I if I follow along those guidelines and I remain congruent, which is, thoughts, words, and actions in alignment, then I'm much less likely to have those kind of problems,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Awesome. Guys, it's been a great pleasure. I've enjoyed this a lot.
Yes.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks for
thanks
having
for
me, Ice.
hosting, Ice, and great
Perfect.
to meet you, Justin.
Likewise.
Take care,
Absolutely.
guys.
Loved having you guys here. It's thanks for dropping in.
Mhm.
For
Thanks,
you
man.
guys watching, it's so important. Again, just like I said at the start, I think a huge misunderstanding with guys who get into the pickup community or seduction or whatever avenue they may find themselves in, especially in pickup, because that's the avenue I was coming from originally. The journey. A lot of guys in pickup, including pickup coaches, like even the really experienced pickup coaches that are out there that have been going on for years, there's this emphasis on getting laid with as many women as possible, and that's great if you're into it. And yeah, who isn't? But there's also life. There's stage two relationships. A lot of pickup coaches forget about actually keeping a woman. And it sometimes gets sad to see where you see fierce pickup coaches just avoiding getting into a relationship in the first place. Or, you know, they're like, I can no longer do infield boot camps if I get a girlfriend, so I'll never have a girlfriend, or they'll just avoid it, some kind of line of thinking like that. And then they just never have children. So it's kind of weird how an entire subculture that is aimed at getting women kind of forget about their own true desires of, I actually want to have a family.
Right.
So,
The biological imperative.
exactly,
Kids are
the
great.
biological imperative. Family is the ultimate purpose. Not everyone wants to have a family, but
And
we done
not everyone can.
Yeah. Many
exactly.
people can.
Not every guy is gonna have that opportunity.
Yeah.
We done plenty of polling on this with so many, either hundreds of respondents or thousands of respondents. What people actually want to get up out of the pickup community in particular, and so many guys simply in the long term want to have their own family. People in society, it's not just pickup artists call it selling down. I don't think it should be called selling down. It's really
No.
just having a family, and I believe that's really the ultimate purpose of game. I'm an atheist. I don't have any religious connotations to go with this. I'm not
No, it's just part of the
lecturing.
game. Like kids is part
Yeah,
of life. Like having kids is like it's you're missing part of the jigsaw. I believe you're missing part of the jigsaw puzzle if you have that opportunity, you don't do it. It's like, yeah, you might have an easier game. You might get stuck on level 7 for ages, and level 7's really fun, but you don't get the full experience. You don't learn, you don't grow, you don't experience the richness of life. Like the one thing I would say to so many guys who are lost for meaning, right? And young guys are just like have kids, like make that a focus. Like they deserve a chance. That little guy swimming around in your nutsack right now, he deserves a chance. Like get like you gotta have kids. If you don't know what to do, have kids. That's my final nonsense comment for the day. But I do think that so many young guys their life would open up in so many ways if they had the opportunity to experience being a father. So yeah, again, massively appreciate you guys, and many more of these to come, I hope.
of
Yeah.
course. Where I'm doing them very regularly now, not just once a month. Or
Nice.
it's almost weekly, either a debate or a panel, or just me rambling. That's coming soon. Thanks
Good
for
man.
dropping in, guys.
Take care.
Feel
Okay.
free to go. I'll just have a
Take it easy.
monologue and
All right.
interact
Bye.
with the
All right,
chat.
man. Bye now.
Thanks. To continue what I was thinking, no, it's crazy because conversations I have had, or there are some coaches out there who told me conversations they have had with clients or potential clients, whoever the fuck they were. One example I can remember, a particular coach had a client who had sex with less than 100 women, and then he was like, the coach said, "What are your goals?" "My goal is to get laid with 100 women." And then he gets laid with 100 women. And then after that, the coach says again, what are your goals now? What's next for you? And then he says, 200 women. We're going to go for 200 women. And then, yeah, that's great. Fucking do it. Of course, you want to. But some guys, not every guy who has sex with a lot of women, not every guy, but there are some guys who are so obsessed with the numbers. I want to remind you that game is not about numbers. Pickup, not about numbers. Game, life, same thing. Pickup, game, same thing. Whatever you define it as, because I know there are people from different audiences here. If you attach numbers to game and your purpose being in game is I want to get laid with 10 million women or as many as possible, that's cool. But then what happens when you actually get there? Because when you set that bar of I want to get to 100, and then you go through that, you get to 200. My camera keeps fucking up. Where does it end? So this is why you have to actually remember that pickup game, whatever you want to call it, you have to see it in a humanist way. What do you actually want out of it? Because if you had sex with a lot of women, at some point you just realize it's pretty much the same. Even when you're with different women, like one may give better blowjobs, one may have a better looking face, longer eyelashes, better fashion, bigger tits, bigger ass. Once you had like every variation of what kind of woman you're into, you're just like, everything's pretty much the same. It's like podcasts out there where they're saying BBLs aren't that great. And I don't know. Am I going crazy here? When you have sex with a lot of women, at some point you're kind of desensitized to she has to have a big ass or big tits or all these other things. And you just realize what you actually want, especially when you're so obsessed. Like I used to be a little bit obsessed, not in the numbers sense. Like some guys are into what's your approach to lay ratio thing. I don't think about things in terms of that. However, I did think in terms of when was the last time I got laid. And at the worst, when I started really getting into game after I moved to a major city, my longest ever dry spell would be 13 or 14 days. So and that started literally as I got moved to the city. Like the day after I moved to the city, I got laid or whatever day it was. It was the same week. And within that first week, I got laid with two different women. I was like, God damn, this is gonna be good. And then never got worse than not having sex for 2 weeks. So yes, I fought in terms of that. And it really became a matter of, okay, I haven't had sex for a week. It's coming in the next few days, if not tonight. Or it's been 12 days, it's coming tonight or tomorrow. So it became that kind of thing. That I am not bullshitting. That is absolutely fucking true. I remember that specifically. And I would put all my dates on Google Calendar in purple. So all of that is there. I think they remove it after however many years though. But back to the point. You have to remember that game is this fucking thing. Game is humanist. You can't attach it's a numbers game kind of thing. I know guys out there who are hardcore day gamers and they just like approach thousands of women and they only go on a few dates and they get laid with only one of them. It's just like, what the fuck? So another idea I want to throw in while I'm rampaging on. Let me check the chat here too. There we go. The concept of low volume and high volume. So I'm personally a low volume guy, and we did a poll, and it's not a huge difference, but we did a poll on whether or not guys in the community are high volume. approach machines, you could say, where they approach a lot of women, a significant amount of women on a regular basis. And then the other option is, are you low volume, social opportunist? So do you approach not many women, not necessarily every single day, but you do interact with women in various, wherever you fucking go, various situations, various places. You're more of a social opportunist rather than going to Washington Square Park and spam approaching. I'm gonna do 100 sets today. Um, I'm more in line with low volume. And it's just crazy. If we want to talk about numbers, this is like the only other number association that makes sense of game other than when was the last time I had sex? Like what's your longest dry spell in the last few years if you're doing game consistently? 2 weeks. The only other numerical related attachment I would consider is fuck, what was it? I'm losing my mind here. If you're low volume and you're not going on, you're not meeting a crazy amount of women, but you are getting dates and you are getting laid, then technically that makes your rate very high. So Marcus Wolf talked about this, where he said, and this was a long time ago in one of the debates, if you're good, you should expect to get laid approximately, and again, don't focus too much on the numbers here. 90% of the time on a first date, you should be getting laid. And that's true in my experience. I wouldn't say 90.04%, or like, I don't want to put like specific fucking numbers on it, but close enough. That is accurate if you're a low volume social opportunist kind of guy. And someone left a post on the Skool group today about this, like, when should you expect to get laid with women? Well, expect is the wrong word to use, but when should you, when could you, whatever terminal, whatever fucking words you want to use. Generally, if you're good at game, and you don't have to be high volume, then you can get laid the majority of the time. More like, I'm not talking about 60%, but between 70% and 90% of the time. I don't want to put fucking numbers on this, but the vast majority of the time, you can, if you're very good at game, after 2 years of being in game, doing it consistently. And again, as a reminder, not being high volume necessarily, you can expect to get laid the vast majority of the time on dates. It's just that whether it's low volume, high volume, you really just have to be meeting women and going on dates with them. And they don't even have to be labeled as dates. They could be female friends. What really matters is that you or in front of another human, and that human is female. Shout out to John Anthony Lifestyle, who doesn't always go that way, but someone's got to represent. So good to have some representation. I hope you had a very good Pride Month. You can really achieve those kinds of results that most dates you go on, you end up getting laid on a first date. Here's a funny example. I probably mentioned this before. There was a time when I went on a date, didn't get laid, went on the second date, still didn't get laid. And I was like, what's going on here? Because by that point, I was used to getting laid on the first date. And if I didn't, and she came on a second date, then second date. But this one, it was taken more than 2 dates. And then she messaged me after the second date and she told me she is a lesbian. So I was like, now this is making sense. I didn't tell her that, but that's just something I had to give comfort for. Okay, this makes sense to me, but for her, from her perspective, she's never been with a man before, so this is a problem I have to solve. And then after the second date, that's just something I would have to. That's an extreme example. I know. I have had sex with lesbians before, but so they claim. So, people have argued, but then she's not a real lesbian. I don't know. I don't know how this fucking works psychologically, biologically, like what a lesbian actually is, because, they can have their own experiences. Aside from me rambling on nonsensically at this point, the point I'm trying to make is I will personally, there are some guys who are just like, if she doesn't have to fuck me on the first date, she's out of here. Like, I would always consider a second date with a woman, even if we didn't get laid. In most cases, like if the date was that bad, I can't really think of any examples, but if the date went really that bad and I don't want to see her again, then yeah, there's the exception. But in general, if I don't get laid on the first date and I'm not gonna throw her away and say, no more chances, second date, of course. And then after 2 dates not getting laid, which is rare for me, um, that's when it's like, okay, this is more questionable. But in most cases, you should be getting laid on a first date. It is, I'm just telling you, it is possible. If you think I'm ugly, I'm handsome, whatever, I'm just telling you it is possible. Even if you're, fuck my camera. And still, I have to reemphasize this point again, even if you are low volume, even if you are low volume, you can get laid on the first date the majority of the time and have your longest dry spells 2 weeks ever. Like you could go for a year or 2 years more, never having a dry spell of more than 2 weeks. I'm just saying. Aside from that, if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So jump. What the fuck are you saying in the chat? Punch a shark, dead ass, something about diamonds. What the fuck? You guys got any questions for me? I'll answer the first fucking question that comes up. Let's fucking go. I'm trying to do more live streams because YouTube has been giving me meetings every single week. Oh my fucking God, my camera's ridiculous. God damn it, Trump. Lift the, what's the fucking word? Lift the restriction thing where you gotta pay more money. Whatever. I can't remember the fucking word. God damn it. The tariffs. Lift the fucking tariffs. So like, I'm Jewish. I'm not gonna waste money on a fucking tariff, unnecessary cost, when I can just wait for it to finish or however find another way. So that's why my camera still sucks. That's the only reason why, because I'm Jewish, because I'm a fucking Jew. Not religiously, just culturally. Not really culturally either, just financially. Financially. We'll stick with that. Other things that have been on my mind, we just released an article called Pickup Artistry in Popular Culture. So that's an interesting one. Oh, God damn it, my nose is going crazy now. That's a crazy one. Go look at that article. God damn, the camera's going fucking crazy. Do you guys know any movies or TV shows related to game? I would love to put them in the article. So that's I put in Greece. That doesn't seem like one, but I put it in because what's his fucking name? I was gonna say Zac Efron. The T-Birds are like wingman, and Danny Zuko, that's his name. Danny Zuko is running game on Sandy, being with other women too. Grease is a movie about game. Disagree with me all you fucking want, but Grease is a good fucking movie. The ironic thing about Grease is the only problem I have with the movie Grease from 1978 is everything is based in Los Angeles, but everyone has an accent from New York and New Jersey. So it's just fucking funny to watch. When I was a kid, I didn't realize, but after I've seen it so many times. But after you're just like, why the fuck is this set in California? But everyone has fucking New York and New Jersey accents. It's fucking funny. You cannot, you can never view it the same way now. I just spoiled it for everyone. Go check out that fucking article if you want to watch some movies and TV shows there's um where there's a theme of games. So off the top of my head from the article, movies, there's the pickup artist, probably 1987, I think. Robert Downey Jr. He literally does dating on the fucking street in the movie. It's when I watch some clips doing some research on this, it was fucking I'm like, he's literally doing fucking dating in the movie. It's fucking hilarious. And he literally does this cold approach on the street in New York and then crosses the street to do another one after getting a phone number. He was like, I'll remember the phone number. And then he writes it down as he crosses the street, immediately approaching another woman. He literally does fucking day game in the fucking movie. That's hilarious to me. I did not expect that. But the movie is literally called The Pickup Artist. But that was kind of like before day game was really it's not a big thing, but before it really became a thing. So that was fucking crazy to me. There's also Magnolia from 1999. I known about this for years. Tom Cruise, his character, TJ Mackey, I think is the name, is based on Ross Jeffries. And that's why you can see on whenever Russ Jeffries is on here, you can see a little picture frame and Tom Cruise is in the picture frame. That's on the wall of Ross Jeffries. So he keeps like a little thing for that. Other movies, Hitch is an obvious one, is more dating coachy, but there we go. What were some of the other ones? TV shows. How I Met Your Mother is a fucking obvious one. Barney Stinson, crazy fucking character. Absolute fucking legend. I would like to thank Barney Stinson for inspiring Cobra Kai, the TV show, after the movies The Karate Kid. Other TV shows, Two and a Half Men. It's literally just Charlie Sheen being Charlie Sheen, only that his character's name is Charlie Harper. So it's literally just Charlie Sheen's game. VH1's The Pickup Artist by Mystery's own TV show. There's Nick Weber and Eric Weber made it's on YouTube. You can view it for free. Wing Dad. He was on a panel previously a few months back, Eric Weber, who wrote the best-selling book, How to Pick Up Women, I think is the title. From 1970 is when it was published, but written from 1965. So that's a crazy. He's 82 years old. I invited him this episode, but he couldn't make it. Because of course he's a dad. He's Wing Dad, so he would have been perfect for this episode. Aside from that, whatever fucking TV shows were there. The Mentalist, that's a fucking good one. I loved that show. It does have a pickup artist character in it, actually, but only in one episode. But the main character himself, he's not a pickup artist. He's a married man who became a widow, but he uses a lot of psychological techniques, which are incredibly amazing. And he uses them to catch killers, guilty killers, because he detects their guilt and uses all these weird fucking manipulations to catch them out. So it's the craziest fucking show. It's so good. They kind of, I don't want to spoil anything, but they kind of fucked something up like after 2 seasons or something. And they're like, oh, what the fuck? That made no sense. But that yeah, it's a great show overall. It's very good. Aside from that, for the next panel I'm planning, here's what we got coming up. On Sunday this week, we got the debate between Mr. Lucario and Avery Hayden, A.G. Hayden. That's gonna be fucking crazy. Exactly 7 days after that, we got a debate between Dean Raymond and Eric Kohlberg, Ablaze Mysteries Wingman. That's gonna be a funny one. I don't know how that's gonna turn out. So that's gonna be pretty interesting. Energy game is what Dean has been preaching. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Ross Jeffries is going to be there. We're also planning a social circle game dating coach panel episode. So ideally, the lineup should be Michael Sartain, Sam Efson, Justin, Mark, and I invited Dan Bilzerian. He's too busy to show up to these things. And Justin Waller, also busy with his own stuff, but hopefully, I invite these guys regardless in the hopes that they chime in on this stuff. So that's all good. If you have, oh, we're also doing plans for these ones are going to be really out of the box here. A Japanese dating coach panel. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's probably going to be in Japanese. And then you'll have to use the audio track feature that YouTube recently released for everyone. That's going to be interesting because we could learn Nanpa is what they call pickup in Japanese. And it's fucking crazy. There are some Nanpa Japanese PUAs, Japanese Nan, I don't know what the fuck to call them, Japanese Nanpa, who have huge fucking followings on YouTube. I literally talked to a guy today or yesterday who has 575,000 subscribers on YouTube because he does Nampa, Japanese language pickup. And they do these live streams. It's so fascinating. They're literally doing infield pretty much every week or goddamn, I can't. They're pretty much doing infield every fucking week. There was a particular guy who's pretty much doing it every single fucking day, and a few others who are like pretty much doing it almost every day. And they have crazy fucking views. They do like a vertical live or some kind of live stream on YouTube, and they're literally just like interacting with the chat and then like talking to women as well. It's like, is this the future of infill? And the Japanese leading the way on this, it's fucking crazy. Some of them don't speak English. I tried connecting with as many of them as possible, and they were kind of hard to find. Not all of them have like Instagram or whatever, but that's gonna be a fucking crazy one. And the other one I have in the plans are an Indian dating coach panel. So we did an Asian one in general before, but in the plans we got specifically Japanese and Indian. And the Indian one, I have always had that in mind. We get so many Indian guys who view this channel, and a common belief is I'm Indian, so I'm gonna struggle with women, or if they're in Europe or USA or Canada, or even in India, there's some cultural things where you can't have a hotel room with a woman without a marriage certificate in your name and her name. So culturally, game in India, I understand may be a little difficult for guys in India. I never been to India, but I'm just basing this off of our game India communities. Game Mumbai, game Hyderabad, if I'm pronouncing that right. Game Bengaluru, game, we got like 12 different cities in India. So that's according to you guys yourselves. So send me questions for all these panel lineups, social circle game, Indian panel, Japanese panel, we're gonna have some fucking crazy times here. Any ideas you guys have? That really might be the future of infield. It's fucking crazy. Although I thought about it myself, and she obviously knows like she's gonna be on a live stream. So then it's not gonna be truly representative of like doing cold approach, but it's like, hey, I'm live streaming, so of course women will in some cases want to be involved and be seen on the internet, but at least it's pretty authentic otherwise, otherwise blurring faces and shit like that. Or the gray area of infield can be kind of crazy. But I think I have rambled on for long enough, and my camera is a piss ass, really annoying me. So let's end it there. Thanks for watching. Send me your fucking questions, ideas, and whatever. Join the Game Global communities, especially gameglobal.net/groups. Find your city, find a wingman, find your community, find yourself. Find yourself a woman or two or three or more. And join the Skool group, skool.com/game-global, and check out all the links in the description. You can literally scan this right here, and enter the code in the description and the pinned comment. Message Game Coach, all one word, capital letters. I don't know if it's cap sensitive or whatever, but Message Game Coach code on MGAI will give you 2 months free access, or technically 2 months and a week, because there's a free trial of 7 days. 2 months free access to the AI Wingman. And this is specifically designed for message game. It's not supposed to help you with day game, night game, social circle game, but it's specifically designed for message game. Message game, artificial intelligence. It's literally the AI version of me, and you'll also have access to the MGAI community too. So all that is some good shit that we have been doing in the last 2 years, more than 2 years. And you'll be able to send screenshots to MGAI. You can do it right now. And it will read your screenshot and give you exactly what to send to her to get her on a date with you. So it can take care of your message game interactions. It's crazy. A lot of people use it, of course, but it's crazy how every man on earth is not using it. I'm literally just like, until every man on earth knows about this, I will never fucking rest, because this is how the fucking me. I'm just tired of I'm not sad. I'm just got something in my throat. I'm just tired of so many guys on fucking Reddit and everywhere just being fucking clueless. Like, what should I say next? She hasn't responded to me. She ghosted me. And then people in the comments are like, yeah, she's not interested, bro. She's not interested because you didn't fucking follow the rules of message game in the first place. Rule number 1, skip the bullshit. Rule number 2, lead. Rule number 3, meet. I didn't really go in explaining on this, but it really is that simple, following those rules. Look into those rules by finding our work. The Message Game is a book associated with this, goes in depth on everything about this. If you're not leading your conversations, it's gonna go fucking nowhere. So no wonder you guys are fucking lost. Like, that's the second most important rule of message game. The most important is meeting. Stop being fucking pen pals. Okay, too much ranting for one day. Expect some more fucking craziness. 15,000 subscribers. I'm gonna fucking shut up now. Make sure you fucking subscribe, you motherfuckers, unless you're a virgin, in which case you never had sex with a mother, but technically you came out of your mom, so that probably doesn't count. That would be incest. What the fuck am I talking about now? Game on. Okay, guys, subscribe. Go through these fucking links in the description. I got free stuff for you that you're missing out on. You could literally go on dates this fucking week. because of something in the fucking description and pinned comment that you can click on that's free for you to access. Can literally help you go on a date this week and get laid. Come on, it's that fucking easy. Like, we have mapped everything out for them. This is what Game Global is doing. Nobody else is doing this. Like, yes, people have their own concepts and whatever. Game Global is showing you everyone's techniques, everyone's fucking concepts, everyone's fucking dating advice. We are mapping out the entire fucking game. That is why we are Game Global. Game on. Now I gotta end the stream. Game on. Ah, fuck, I gotta confirm, verify to end the stream. Game on.